Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and today I want to read from you a famous excerpt from the Mahabharata where King Yudhishthira talks about anger. It's a beautiful passage and it's worth hearing it out, and once you hear this passage you'll never again want to be angry. Now what's going on? What's the context here? So the context is very powerful and emotional. What happened is the Pandavas, led by King Yudhishthira, they just got cheated out of everything they had by the evil Kauravas, led by Duryodhana. So they just got cheated. So they had the most powerful kingdom on earth. Yudhishthira had just been named emperor of the world. So he had the most richest, most powerful, most beautiful kingdom and palaces and unbelievable wealth. I mean, they were just we can't even imagine it in this day and age what it was like to be, what Yudhishthira had. I mean, just imagine the most incredible kingdom, and all the people loved him. And it was just like this perfect situation. So the most amazing, powerful situation him and his brothers, the 5 Pandavas, had with Draupadi, queen, and other queens. So they had this amazing situation, and Duryodhana comes along and he cheats Yudhishthira out of it in a rigged dice game, because he had to play gambling. He had forced him, because of the rules of conduct of kings. He couldn't deny the challenge. He had to accept the challenge, but it was like a cheating thing. So he lost everything by cheating. He didn't lose it in battle. He lost it in cheating. So you can imagine being scammed. He was scammed. He just got scammed out of this huge empire. So now they're in exile. So the Pandavas are in exile with Draupadi, and they're really angry, right? Because, it was King Yudhishthira. He had to do it. But anyway, so they're kind of like, you just lost us everything. You got scammed. Even when it's a good scam, you still kind of get angry at the person who got scammed. You got scammed of everything you had. So they're angry. And they're fighters. They're the greatest fighters on earth, the Pandavas. So they want to fight. And Draupadi is a real warrior queen as well. So they want to fight. They want to go and fight. They're just so angry. And so Yudhishthira speaks these words to tell them, look, anger is not going to take care of it. We made a promise we would be exiled for all these years, so we have to keep our promise. We cannot succumb to anger now. So this is what he says. Let's finally read this excerpt from the Mahabharata. So he says like this: peculiar is anger, for it both slays and protects, and peculiarly it begets all prosperity as well as adversity. So what does he mean? Is he glorifying anger? No, wait a second. For conquest of anger cannot but lead to prosperity, and giving way to anger allows it to heap on you adversity. Destructive is anger to every living creature, and so makes a sinner of man. The angry man hurts his elders and betters, and fails to distinguish between what should be said and what should not. And this is a very important thing, right? When we're angry, literally you lose your intelligence. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses this expression that when you're angry, you lose your intelligence. And of course, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's when you smash your phone on the floor, you punch the cupboard that you hit your head on or something. You do stupid things. You kick the car because it won't start. Whatever. You've seen it, or you've probably done a couple of these things. You just act like an idiot. You forget things. People, of course, and it gets really bad. People, commit horrible crimes. People sometimes kill someone just out of anger, just, without thinking, because you lose your intelligence. So you don't know what to say and what to do, and you end up doing horrible things. That's one of the biggest problems of anger. No act, no word seems taboo for the angry one. And you know that, right? You've seen that. And in its grip will he slay indiscriminately. It is known that anger invites premature death, and it certainly does, right? And so many people have died because of anger. Knowing these dangers, the wise strive to gain control over anger. Forestalling wrath and not reacting to an angry man is like a psychic against fear. It's like a physic against fear, like a medical, like a doctor against fear. And one who manages such control is like a physician to both himself and the angry man. So again, she's saying, look, if you don't react to anger, you're being like a doctor in a sense that you're protecting like a dangerous, sickly situation, like a disease situation. And when you don't succumb to someone who is in anger, you manage that, then you're being a doctor to yourself and to the angry person. Because you've seen what happens when you come across an angry person. The last thing you want to do is get angry yourself and just raise the stakes, and everybody goes crazy, and then of course disaster happens. So when you come across an angry person, if you can be the wise person who keeps his head cool, then you can diffuse the situation. If a weak man, persecuted by others, foolishly becomes angry towards men that are mightier than he then becomes himself the cause of his own destruction. So here he's talking, especially in case of like, he's a king. So like if a weaker state or king reacts in anger to a more powerful enemy, or even like in the streets, if you're like weaker and you get all angry with like, much more powerful people, then you're just going to get destroyed yourself. So that he's talking about when you get angry in a position of less power and you're just going to get, you're going to lose the fight and get hurt yourself. And in respect of one who thus deliberately throws away his life, there are no regions hereafter to gain. So there's no gain for that, just a loss. Therefore, it has been said that a weak man should always suppress his wrath. So that kind of sounds like a negative thing. A weak man should suppress his wrath. So the strong one should not? No, wait a second. And the wise man also, though persecuted, suffers not his wrath to be roused, enjoyeth in the other world, having passed his persecuted over in indifference. This is a key word in yoga psychology, indifference. So when we're dealing with something negative, something that's not good, you can do one of three things. You can like it, you can go for it, so you're angry, so you can get into it and like it. You can hate it, or you can become indifferent to it. You have these three choices always. And yoga always says, look, when something isn't good, don't like it, but don't get angry with it, don't get negative with it either. Just be indifferent to it. That's the way to have the least amount of interaction with that thing. That's the best thing you can do. Just become indifferent. So when you deal with somebody's anger, just try to be cool, be indifferent. The more you ignore it, the more it will just kind of like diffuse itself. I mean, I've seen this happen and it works. It's very good. It is for this reason it has been said that a wise man, whether strong or weak, should ever forgive his persecutor, even when the latter is in the straits. It is for this that the virtuous applaud them that have conquered their wrath. Indeed, it is the opinion of the virtuous that the honest and forgiving man is ever victorious. Truth is more beneficial than untruth, and gentleness is more beneficial than cruel behavior. They that are regarded by the learned of foresight as possessed of true force of character are certainly those who are wrathful in outward show only. Men of learning and of true insight call him to be possessed of force of character, who by his wisdom can suppress his risen wrath. So when you have this show of anger, people think this is a show of strength. But in wise people, he's saying, they know that this is only an outward show. There isn't true strength there because the person can't even control their own anger. It's all bluster. And the truly strong person is the one who can control his anger and act with wisdom, intelligence, strategy, and planning. Therefore, the man possessing force of character should ever banish wrath to a distance. The man that is overwhelmed with wrath acquires not with ease generosity, dignity, courage, skill, and other attributes belonging to real force of character. And you've noticed this, right? If you're an angry person, will seldom be able to accumulate these good qualities of generosity, dignity, courage, skill, and other attributes, because they're just overwhelmed by anger. And physiologically, what's happening is your amygdala is taking over from your cortex, so you don't have these higher abilities. You just kind of get a little animal-like. It's not very powerful. The one who forsakes ire becomes a true possessor of zest. One who is enslaved to anger possesses but a mockery of energy. That too, which fails him in the hour of need. The turbulence of anger wrongly is considered energy by the ignorant. So he's emphasizing this very good point, like that people, because this really is common to this day in our culture, isn't it? Like, oh, you show anger, then it means you're powerful. You've got energy because you're angry, but it's not. It's like a show. Right? It's a foolish thing. It doesn't really work, on the long scale. Wrath, however, has been given to man for the destruction of the world. The well-behaved must learn to banish anger. Even one who has abandoned the excellent virtues of his own order, it is certain indulges in wrath. If amongst men there were not persons equal unto the earth in forgiveness, there would be no peace among men, but continued strife caused by wrath. If the injured return their injuries, if one chastised by his superior were to chastise his superior in return, the consequence would be the destruction of every creature, and sin would also prevail in the world. So you say, look, if people weren't tolerant, and in the Vedas they would say, tolerant as the earth, because the earth can take so much. If we're abusing that, but like planet Earth can take all this, people step beyond it in construction, digging holes, and but now we're going a bit far with that. But anyway, so if people were giving into anger, then it just doesn't end. And then you see that geopolitically, right? If people keep giving into anger, then it's like they never end. It just keeps like, oh, you did this, and I'm going to do this. Oh, you did this, and I'm going to. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to do this. Oh, then I'm going to. And you see this. We have geopolitically, these things have been going on for decades, and people. There's no end in sight because there's no forgiveness. There's always giving into anger. So it's very dangerous. Then he goes on, he says, if the man who has ill speeches from another returns those speeches afterwards, if the injured man returns his injuries, if the chastised person chastises in return, if fathers slay sons, sons slay fathers, and if husbands slay wives and wives slay husbands, thus there would be no birth and no human race if anger prevails, the world would be destroyed. If the king also gives way to wrath, his subjects soon meet with destruction. Wrath, therefore, has for its consequence the destruction and the distress of the people. And because it is seen that there are in the world men who are forgiving like the earth, it is therefore that creatures derive their life and prosperity. So very nice text. From the Mahabharata, from King Yudhishthira, who of course is Dharma personified. That's why he's so wise, because he is Dharma personified in the Mahabharata. So he's representing the highest values there are. And of course in our lives, Krishna also in the Bhagavad Gita many times says that a yogi controls anger. And people who think anger is still a good thing, I always tell them, look, you should notice how professional fighters and real warlike situations, like soldiers in war and generals, see how they deal with anger. And you can see, if you look at them, that they try to make the other side angry, so they will fight in, less, not as well. So they try to do that. You might see this if you ever looked into MMA. If you haven't, just check that out. They'll try to get the other party angry because they know that when they're angry, they won't fight as well. So even in fighting, like literally, like if you're in a cage fight, you don't want to succumb to wrath because you won't work as well. You won't be as effective. And also, geopolitically, soldiers, you don't want them fighting angry. You want them fighting smart. So anger is bad even for fighting. What to speak of our daily lives, what to speak of just, dealing with stuff in life and, people at work and especially, people in the family. You never want to succumb to anger. You really want to be able to spot it coming and control it by taking deep breaths or just by walking off, stepping out for a while. You want to subdue it before it makes a mess of your life. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did, and have a rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love and no anger. Hare Krishna.